What's up, everybody? Welcome to another Rando Chat, where we explore what's going on in the world of science, history, archaeology, art and architecture, and technology. So it's basically what the news would be if it wasn't ran by a bunch of evil archons. And here is a perfect example of that in the category of science. Discovery of dark oxygen, scary, from deep sea metal lumps could trigger rethink of origins of life. What do you want to bet this gets tied in with climate change? In a world's first, scientists working in the North Pacific have found that metallic nodules on the seafloor produce their own oxygen, dubbed dark oxygen. This is the first time scientists have ever observed oxygen being generated without the involvement of organisms and challenging what we know about the emergence of life on Earth. I think it's challenging more than that. These nodules mostly contain oxides of iron and manganese, but they also hold metals like cobalt, nickel, and lithium, as well as rare earth elements. So these scientists, which are really just recon scouts for the mining companies, set out to study the potential impacts of mining polymetallic nodules on the seafloor between 10,000 and 20,000 feet deep. Typically, oxygen levels decline the deeper you go, but instead of the expected decline, the data showed steady emissions from the seabed. The difference in electrical potential that exists between metal ions within the nodules with the two different types of metal produces an electrical charge and then creates electrolysis that splits the water into oxygen and hydrogen. So basically, mining companies found out that these rocks that are strewn across the ocean floor for literally thousands of miles contain small amounts of lithium and cobalt. So they wanted to check the feasibility of mining this, where they accidentally discovered that these are producing oxygen. Now, I didn't figure you guys wanted to stare at these rocks for 2 minutes, so what I was trying to portray in my really crude graphics was these hydrothermal vents that are constantly putting off carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, and let's not forget the heavyweights, volcanoes that release millions of tons of gases into the atmosphere in a matter of minutes, but they want to belittle you for driving one of these to a job that you don't want, but you have to have because, well, eating and whatnot, when the Earth is nothing but a giant gas factory. Back in the 90s, they guilt-tripped us and told us we had to save the rainforest, the lungs of the Earth. And if we didn't buy their Rainforest Cafe t-shirts, then loggers were going to cut down the entire rainforest and we're all going to die because we don't have any air to breathe. When the whole time, phytoplankton in the ocean was producing 50% of the world's oxygen. And now we see that rocks just sitting on the ocean floor produce even more oxygen, while they've convinced people like this that we have to pollute the sky in order to save the world. And if this guy looks familiar, that's the guy that sold you the bunk molly at Burning Man. Just kidding, it's much worse than that. He's a Silicon Valley tech engineer with no background in science whatsoever. Unless you consider tax write-offs a science, because that's all the climate change scam is, who is now intentionally replicating a volcanic eruption and releasing sulfur dioxide into the upper atmosphere. I got a question. What happens when a volcanic eruption does occur and you're already doing this? I didn't think about that, huh? So I know some of you are new to my way of thinking on this channel, and I just want to point out that the Earth is producing more gases than scientists can even measure, while billionaires arrived at Davos in 1,500 private jets, each one producing more gases than every car in your town annually, so they could discuss ways of getting you to walk 20 miles to work every day. They own basically all sources of media, so even if you're watching Star Wars and there's a dead planet, they're going to tell you it was due to climate change. So I know that was kind of a long segment for a rando chat, but it's an important subject. No scientist, air quotes, gets funding unless their results comply with COP24 regulations, and lithium is the new gold rush. Well, guess who outfitted drones with equipment that can detect where all the lithium deposits are all across the country? That's right, these guys. So it doesn't matter if you hear about this 50 times a day and they make sure that you do. None of their models take things into account like rocks producing oxygen at the bottom of the ocean. And not one single model takes into account the sun's effect on temperatures on Earth. Yeah, that's right. That big fiery ball that produces all the warmth on Earth aside from planetary accretion. Yeah, they seriously don't even factor that in. But if you compare sunspot activity to temperatures on Earth, it clearly shows decreased solar activity results in decreased temperatures. That's why after the catastrophes of the 14th century, we fell into the little ice age. That's why rule number 1 is that all models have to start in the 1800s at the end of the Little Ice Age. So they can then blame everything on the Industrial Revolution. And just so you know, at that time, they really were polluting entire ecosystems, but we fixed that, which got them drunk on regulatory power. So now they have to invent the invisible boogeyman that only they can detect. So that's how that works. All right, let's talk about something else. In another undersea discovery that shows how everything constantly changes, a stone wall has been discovered about 10 kilometers north of Rerik, right on the coast of Germany, in the Baltic Sea. Stretching nearly 1 kilometer, this submerged stone wall could provide a rare glimpse into the lives of hunter-gatherers from over 10,000 years ago. They don't have any actual photos of this, so I'm just showing you guys something else. But as time goes on, you'll see that these discoveries are being made all around the world. And every one of them, they're going to date to 8,500 to 10,000 years ago, because then it has to fit into their Ice Age melt model. And of course, hunter-gatherers that followed the food around. If you're following the food around, why are you taking the time to build a stone wall? But this wall is 21 meters, about 60 feet underwater, consisting of nearly 1,700 stones, and it is 971 meters long, up to 2 meters wide, and less than a meter high in most parts. Scientists suspect the wall might have been used for hunting reindeer. Of course it was. But this discovery, just like hundreds of others, challenges long-standing views about the mobility of hunter-gatherer societies. Typically seen as nomadic, the presence of such a large, deliberate structure suggests these communities may have been more stationary than previously thought. With a budget of nearly 1 million euros, researchers are eager to determine if this structure was part of a larger settlement or a unique construction. Here, I got an idea. You guys pay me half that, and I'll start tying together all of these different discoveries that there's hundreds of, and I'll show that this Ice Age theory that they've been teaching as fact for the last 100 years is irreparably flawed, and that people used to settle on the coastline that was about 60 feet lower than current ocean levels. But wait, that would mean that all these academics that built their career on hunter-gatherers in the Ice Age model were wrong. Yeah, exactly. This was probably a seawall. A kilometer-long seawall is a pretty decent harbor. But here's what's scary is they have completely destroyed the internet. It's taken me 5 minutes to find 3 images of these underwater stone walls when I've covered at least a dozen of these in past videos. If they don't want you to look into these things, they just erase it off the internet. All right, let's end off with a little technology. World first project to develop portable particle accelerator for use in analyzing cultural heritage sites. So I'm still trying to figure out what all they're capable of doing with these particle accelerators. In the last video, I showed how they can use these to decipher burnt scrolls from Pompeii that are still rolled up, but apparently they can beam particles through there and detect where the ink is and where it isn't and read these scrolls. The development of the world's first portable particle accelerator, designed to be taken to remote parts of the globe to study rock art and other cultural heritage, is underway thanks to a new interdisciplinary research project. Nicknamed NOMAD, is seeking to create a mini version of the Large Hadron Collider capable of scanning rocks to reveal invisible works of art that may have faded over time. Now, this is just funny. NOMAD is funded by a £225,000 grant. So they get a £1 million grant to study a rock wall under the water. But these guys are designing and building a portable particle accelerator for a quarter of that cost. But here's my question, is what else can this technology be used for? I mean, sure, that's a noble cause to be able to see the ink that's faded over the years on old rock art, but how long is it going to be before you can scan somebody's house to see if they have any high caliber projectiles inside before smashing in the front door? Just saying, I don't know what they can use this technology for. They always seem to have good reasons for inventing bad things. So I don't know. Anyway, that's what's going on in the world of chat. I will catch you guys on the next one. Static out.